We get it. Being chased by a weapon-wielding maniac probably won't make you act all that rationally, but come on guys, these terrible choices really don't have any excuse. I'm Tilly from What Culture, and these are the 10 dumbest decisions in slasher movies. Number 10. Going Upstairs, Black Christmas. Along with John Carpenter's Halloween, 1974's Black Christmas is viewed as the movie that ushered in the slasher subgenre. In addition to also introducing the famed "the calls are coming from inside the house" trope, Black Christmas likewise saw one of the most boneheaded decisions in horror history. With a sorority house having been tormented by creepy phone calls, the final act of Black Christmas saw the jaw-dropping reveal that these sinister calls had actually been coming from inside their house. Upon being informed of this by a frenzied Sergeant Nash, Olivia Hussey's Jess freezes in panic, nervously takes in her surroundings as the audience awaits for someone to emerge from the shadows. Then though, Jess makes the utterly stupid call to head upstairs, shouting out to see if anyone is there. "You know someone's there, Jess, what are you doing?" Much to her terror, Jess soon finds the corpses of two of her best friends, is confronted by the killer and ends up locking herself in the basement where she promptly passes out. Nearly as stupid as Jess's decision to head upstairs despite the police telling her not to, is the cops' logic upon finding Jess and the dead body of her boyfriend Peter in the basement. Clearly looking to minimalise their paperwork, the police presume Peter was the killer, quietly put Jess to bed, as viewers are shown how the killer is, of course, very much alive and still in the house. Number 9. Needlessly pausing your own escape, I Know What You Did Last Summer. 1997's I Know What You Did Last Summer is a movie that has a special place in the heart of many a horror fan. But like is so commonplace in horror, I Know What You Did Last Summer is a movie that has you shaking your head in disbelief at certain points. On this front, the biggest perpetrator is Sarah Michelle Gellar's Helen Shivers. The beauty queen of the day, Helen flees to her sister's store after seeing her boyfriend Barry and a cop both killed by the hooked killer of the film. After her sister is then next to be brutalised, the race is on as Helen looks to get away from the picture's villain. For once in a slasher effort, Helen actually manages to outrun and outsmart the killer, edging ever so close to the safety offered by the nearby 4th of July parade. With victorious freedom in sight, Gellar's character acts like a total idiot by stopping to double check she has really evaded her killer, giving the hook-wielding Ben Willis the chance he needed to slice Helen up. Number 8. Locking yourself in with a killer, Stage Fright. In 1987's Stage Fright, the attention is on a late-night theatre group rehearsing a play about a serial killer dubbed the Owlman. The stupid decision of this particular movie happens right at the beginning of the film, with the Owlman director deciding to lock his cast into the theatre for the night, just as a murderous mental asylum escapee happens to become locked in the theatre with these unsuspecting actors. Even more idiotic, the call is made for the theatre key to be hidden for the duration of the night, with only one person trusted to know the location of this hidden key. The problem is, this stupid logic comes back to bite the entire group on the arse when that particular person, Corinne, is the first to be killed, meaning that the rest of the characters are unnecessarily trapped with the bloodthirsty Irving Wallace, who proceeds to knock off nearly the entirety of the cast by the time Stage Fright rolls to a close. To think this was all due to some needless whim of a director, and here we were thinking Kubrick was difficult to work with. 7. ATM. Released in 2012, ATM was a film that maybe flew a little under the radar for some of the more casual horror fans. Yet the David Brooks-helmed offering is well worth a watch if you happen upon it when channel surfing. Centred on 3 co-workers who make a late-night stop to an ATM booth, there they find themselves stalked and tormented by a parka-wearing killer. It's super minimal, a little weird, but it's also a nicely effective slasher that keeps the audience on their toes. By the end of the picture, 2 of the movie's 3 central protagonists end up dead, plus another 3 innocent people, and the one survivor of the picture is framed for all of these murders. All of this terror could have been so easily avoided though if it wasn't for one dumb decision made during the film's opening moments. That decision is made when the 3 co-workers leave their works party and park up at the ATM in question. It's the middle of the night and the moderately large car park alongside the ATM booth is completely empty. Yet the trio end up for some reason parking ludicrously far away from the ATM, meaning that when they're first attacked, their car is a needlessly long distance away. If only they'd done the logical, sensible, normal thing of parking up next to the ATM, so much of the film's terror could surely have been avoided. Number 6. Taking a bath during a massacre, Slaughter High. If ever a film ticked every cliched box of the 1980s slasher movie, it's 1986's Slaughter High. When people give slashers a bad rap and poke fun at the subgenre, it's films like Slaughter High that are to blame for that. For those not familiar with this picture, it starts off with high school jocks mocking your stereotypical teenage nerd, resulting in an acid-based accident causing said nerd to become physically and mentally affected. Skip ahead a couple of years and all of those jocks are invited back to the school for a reunion, only to realise the school has long been abandoned before each of the group is offed in acid-driven ways by a masked killer who is revealed to obviously be the tormented nerd. After one of these bullies has their guts burst out of their stomach after drinking acid-laced beer, the group scarper off in a panic. But for Shirley, that panic is momentarily put on hold because she needs to do something important. She discovers the school bathroom and she decides to have a soak in the tub in the middle of this nonsense. Shirley's bizarre behaviour, however, is rewarded by her ultimate demise, that being thanks to the taps on the bath serving up acid rather than water. Number 5. Escape by cat flap, Scream. Oh, Tatum, for the first half of Wes Craven's original Scream, Rose McGowan's character was set up to be the feisty, no BS bestest pal of Sidney Prescott, and also the younger sister of Deputy Dewey. Unbeknownst to Tatum, though, she was actually dating one of the two maniacs behind the Woodsboro murder of that 1996 film. That nutjob would be Stu Matcher, although a careful rewatch of Scream suggests that it was likely Stu's partner in crime Billy who was actually the one to off Tatum. The death of Sydney's bestie didn't need to play out like it did, of course, for Tatum made 3 stupid decisions that ultimately resulted in her death. Tatum firstly heads to the garage on her own to get some beers. There, she's confronted by Ghostface. For a second unwise move, Tatum then mocks Ghostface and doesn't take him seriously. Soon realising that the shit has hit the fan and she's now in a serious situation, Tatum ends up trying to make her escape through the garage door's cat flap / doggy door. That was the final nail in the dumbness coffin for this character, as despite her small stature, there is no way that Tatum was ever going to fit through this tiny gap, meaning she became trapped, which allowed Ghostface to raise the garage door and crush her neck. Number 4. Allowing doubt to win. Halloween Resurrection. To many, the Halloween franchise is the absolute best series in all of horror. The stalking, slashing ways of Michael Myers, the autumnal locale of Haddonfield, the central protagonist of Laurie Strode, the crazy like a fox brilliance of Dr. Loomis, and the plentiful disposable teens ripe for the shape to carve up, Halloween ticks so many of the right boxes. While Halloween is a franchise that offers up some fantastic films, there are also some obvious stinkers. And by far the one that reeks the most is 2002's Halloween Resurrection. Despite being abysmal for the most part, the one standout and genuinely great moment is the opening act shocker of seeing Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie killed off by Michael. It was impactful, it was well done, and it was something that just didn't seem like it could ever happen. For those watching, it really shouldn't have happened, for Laurie pulled off a genius plan to trap Myers and finally finish off her longtime foe. Luring him to the rooftop of Grace Anderson's sanitarium, Michael walks straight into Laurie's trap and finds himself dangling off a rooftop. So stupidly, Laurie lets her doubt, caused by the retconning of Halloween H2O's ending, get the better of her, pausing from killing Michael to check who's under the mask. It's here that the shape makes his move, reversing the situation, stabbing Laurie and throwing her to her death. Number 3. The Electrocution Clan, It Follows. David Robert Mitchell's 2014 breakout It Follows is a slasher movie with a twist. And not your usual played out twist reveal, but more the twist here is that the picture is a supernatural slasher. There may not be a Michael Myers or a Jason Voorhees menacing young adults, but It Follows features a supernatural STI that stalks the youngsters on show in the film. Much like a Michael or a Jason, this chilling presence is unrelenting and arguably even more determined than any of the slasher subgenre's famed killers. With an unstoppable, terrifying force laser focused on making its way to a person carrying a sexually transmitted curse, the only way to get yourself out of the crosshairs is to have sex with somebody else. And when Micah Monroe's Jay is running out of ways to stop her inevitable death from this stalking STI, she and her friends come up with what they think is a foolproof scheme. The problem for them is the scheme in question is complete and utter bollocks. As Jay awaits her supernatural stalker in a swimming pool, the plan is to drop a bunch of electrical devices into the water once the sinister figure appears, thus electrocuting the problem of the day. Unfortunately, this backfires spectacularly when the entity picks up on what's happening and starts to launch objects at Jay herself, and the next effort to take down the presence results in one of the group accidentally shooting one of his friends. It was daft, it was naive, and even director Mitchell himself has detailed how this plan than was purposefully intended to be done. Showcasing the panicked idiocy of the teenage characters at the centre of it follows. However, it could also just be his way of getting out of such a stupid decision being his own creation. Number 2. Trying to box with Jason. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. In terms of guilty pleasures, a major one for certain slasher fans is Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Admittedly, it is incredibly cheesy, but that's part of the quirky charm of this 1989 movie. After Jason ends up serving as a stowaway as a school boat trip departs Camp Crystal Lake and sets off for Manhattan, the hockey mask-adorned killer ends up basking in the neon glow of Times Square by the time all is said and done, complete with obviously carving himself up a path of carnage and chaos along the way. One particular fool who found himself falling short in the face of Voorhees was V.C. Dupree's Julius. Showcased earlier in the film as being a half-decent amateur boxer, Julius opts to front up to Jason and box with him upon being greeted by the hulking behemoth. While Julius unloads punch after punch, doing his best to maintain perfect technique and poise, Jason simply just stands there and allows this plucky youngster to punch himself out. Once Julius tires, the franchise's iconic killer hits his prey with one solitary punch that literally knocks his head from his shoulders. Number 1. Not throwing Chucky in the fire, Child's Play. Back in 1988, the first Child's Play movie arrived and ushered in a new iconic horror rogue in the form of infamous good guy doll Chucky. While horror hounds have lapped up the murderous ways of Charles Lee Ray in the years since then, complete with eagerly awaiting more outings from Chucky, the bloodshed and brutality seen across the series could have easily been brought to a crushing halt during that Tom Holland-helmed 88 picture. Back then, Catherine Hicks's Karen Barkley, the mother of long-term franchise protagonist Andy Barkley, had the chance to kill off Chucky once and for all. Upon realising that this not-so-good guy had been operating without batteries, Karen discovers the truth about Chucky and promptly debates throwing him onto her fire. For some reason, she second-guesses herself and instead threatens Chucky rather than simply just tossing this twisted doll to his death. To emphasise how early in the franchise Chucky's reign of terror could have ended, this happens just 42 minutes into Child's Play's 87-minute runtime. If Karen had held back on the chitter-chatter and merely tossed this clearly demented doll to his fiery fate, that would have saved her and her son Andy a hell of a lot of trouble. And she would have saved audiences that horrendous scene in Bride of Chucky that took making your Barbie dolls kiss to a completely unexpected and horrendous level. And that's our list. What stupid decisions in slasher movies made you shake your fist in rage? Let us know down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and swing on by our channel again if you want to catch more content. I've been Tilly and this has been What Culture. Thank you so much for watching and make sure to keep on looking after yourselves. Until next time.